Can I get the icon in cornflower blue?
Hey, Chad.
Hey, Steve. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Hey, I have a question for you. Can I get that software in blue?
What the does that even mean?
I'm glad you asked. So, welcome to the podcast. We are going to discuss exactly that. Chad and I both work in software sales, and I work for Grafana Labs.
I work for Amazon Web Services.
You may have heard of them. And we've been in the pre-sales, high technology sales for a long, long time. And we love talking about this stuff. And so what we wanted to do on this podcast is explore different topics in the industry from a technical salesperson's perspective, but also have guests on to talk about the buyer's perspective. And so we'll do various things on the podcast. We're going to look at quarterly and annual reports and pick them apart, look at trends in the industry, look at how you would potentially leverage that annual report as a salesperson going into a company like Zoom, which we talk about on the first episode, and how you would leverage that information to sell them a product that would make their business and ultimately their customer lives better. We'll look at news in the industry and pick apart articles that we think relate to or have something to do with high technology sales or how they might impact our jobs in the future. And then as part of our jobs, Chad and I have to stay up to date on trends. And in some cases, our companies want to set the trend. And so how do we stay up to date on tech? How do we look around corners and just kind of dissect these things and break things down to understand what's going to happen potentially in the next 2, 5, 10 years? So we hope you enjoy it. Let's get started.
Yeah, let's dive right in.
How did you get into high tech?
Well, I've been programming computers ever since I got my Tandy 1000EX back in third grade, 1986 or so.
You overachiever.
And I was just very lucky that my parents bought me a computer back then. You know, they had the foresight to think this is going to be important. They didn't know anything about computers. They had no idea. It wasn't like they used computers at work and said, "Oh, let's do this."
Yeah.
So I was just very lucky that my parents had that vision to say this is going to be important for my kids to know, and they made it what at the time was a huge expenditure. And talk about something that changed the whole trajectory of my life. I fell in love with it, having that computer, and in high school I ran a Renegade bulletin board that was very popular.
Oh,
So I
okay,
got into
nice.
that world before the internet, and then of course once we had dial-up internet and bulletin boards died, and I went off to college and I studied computer science, and I got in the industry that way. As soon as I graduated from college, I started working at Hewlett Packard, and I spent 7 years as a software engineer there. So my
Okay.
path came through the programming background, and then I discovered that I really loved talking with customers when I was at HP. That
Okay.
was, and I've always been sort of outgoing, gregarious,
Yeah.
and I was like, what do I got to do? What job can I get that marries these two skills that I have? And pre-sales was the clear thing. And as soon as I got my first job as a solution architect at Red Hat, I knew immediately this is what I need to be doing with my life. This is, for better or worse, this is what I'm made to do.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is what I'm made to do.
Yeah.
And I've done that role at a bunch of companies: Red Hat, Cloudera, MongoDB, Elastic. Brevity was a security company I worked at, now at Amazon Web Services. It's just every day is interesting. I talk to different people all the time, work on different projects all the time. I'm never bored. I
Yeah.
have an extreme aversion to boredom, and this job is just so perfect for that, and I love it so much.
Yeah. Right on. I think, the pre-sales architect, like solution architecture, sales engineering, to me, it's one of the, if not the most well-rounded role you can have, because you have to engage with every aspect of your organization and many aspects of the companies that you're selling to's organization. And it's just, you get so much exposure to so many things. It's awesome. I love it. All right. So let me tell everyone just real quickly how I got into the industry. So I started out, my dad actually had started a computer business. He was always into computers. And so, we would get to play, like, I remember loading up Wing Commander, back in the day as the game came on floppy disks. You'd have to put 12 in to get it installed. That was my first, like, oh my God, this is amazing, after Atari. And then he started building computers for buddies of his, and he was charging, I think, like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Anyways, he would ask myself and my two brothers to eventually, like, install the components, put the modems in, the graphics cards, and then the hard drives, and then install DOS. So, I got to install DOS. And then when we had these computers sitting around the house to play with, we got a game called Bard's Tale. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, so Bard's Tale, when I first got it, it was on a CGA monitor.
Mm-hmm.
And then my dad brought home the EGA monitor. And I remember my brothers and I just thinking it was the most amazing thing, right? Like
Right.
16
So many more
What?
colors.
Yeah. So I was playing Bard's Tale on the EGA monitor, and it was still in monochrome, basically. And I was like, there's got to be a way to change this. So I started looking around in the file system, and I found the configuration file, and there was a setting that said CJ, and I changed it to VGA or EGA at the time. And I started the game back up, and next thing you know, I had 16 colors. I was like, oh my goodness, all I had to do was change that one file. So of course, every game after that, I started looking into configuration files. Eventually gave up because I, didn't want to learn at the time. Long story short, I didn't get into computers right then and there. I didn't go down the traditional college route. After I graduated high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I got a job at a car lot selling cars. And it's as bad as you think it is from everything you've heard or engaged with car sales reps. It is as bad as you think, and worse in some cases. So I learned I didn't want to do that, but at the time, a buddy of mine who took an alternative path became a developer, and he told me about this thing called presales, and I was like, it sounds amazing. How do I get into tech like you are? And he said, just go learn how to code. Teach yourself how to code. So I started going online and following like HTML tutorials, VB script tutorials. This was back in the 90s. And I was using WebMonkey a lot actually back then. So I got a job at a call center where I was helping people troubleshoot their DSL and cable modems. So that taught me about that part of the business. And while I wasn't on the phone, I was learning how to code. And so eventually I got a job at a consulting firm where they liked what I had done on my own, but they instantly threw me into a Java project. And I was like, great. I don't have to use anything I taught myself other than the concepts. And now I'm going to learn a whole new programming language. So that was right during the dot-com boom. So I got to work on really fun projects for a lot of failed companies, but build really cool stuff, meet a lot of great people, and just learn. Like I love learning. So I absorbed all of it. And eventually, became a very good developer, got into, application architecture. And then my first pre-sales job was at a company called SpringSource that got acquired by VMware.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I was selling services in Portland to companies where I was saying basically like, look, you're running on WebLogic or WebSphere. Why don't you just run on Tomcat and use the Spring framework? And then my company at the time, the consulting company, could implement all of the applications on top of Tomcat. So basically like EJB migration type projects. And that was fairly successful. SpringSource got my name from a buddy, and I interviewed and got the job. At the time, I was like, who would ever buy open source technology? Like I had built my career on it, but I never paid for it. And SpringSource had introduced a paid model where you could pay for patch releases and security fixes and things like that. And
like a subscription model.
Yeah, subscription model, pay for support. So when I got the job, I learned that people would be willing to pay for open source, and the rest is history. Like I went on from SpringSource got acquired by VMware right when I got hired. Went through the pivotal spin out with Paul Moritz and team, and then eventually got a job at Elastic where I built the pre-sales team from the ground up. Like there was no pre-sales folks except for Shai himself, and built that organization to over 100 people.
Took it public?
Yeah, took it public. And then most recently I joined Grafana, and I'm doing the same thing here. So SE team was already started when I got here. It's a great team. And so we're just building from there. And that's how I got into
exciting. It. Exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and like you, I love talking to customers. I'm super outgoing. COVID has been hell for me, but at least we're able to stay in touch on things like Zoom. So I love it.
I can't wait to get back in the airplane and get out and meet with people in real life, though. It's just, I don't think it's going to happen until 2022 at the earliest, but I'm dreaming of the day when we can meet up again in person.
I'm holding out hope. I mean, some of my colleagues in Australia, they're already meeting in person. They're doing like CIO symposiums and stuff like that. So that's encouraging. And I think we'll get there eventually. We have to go back into person. Like there's no replacement for in-person meetings.
No, not just the meeting, but all the interaction that happens after the meeting too.
Yeah, like getting to know someone.
To replace that.
Yeah,
exactly.
there's something more temporary and ephemeral about a Zoom session. Like, it's just a temporary moment in time. It's going to end at the top of the hour because I have another meeting. But when you're with someone, especially when you're after and you're going out to dinner and stuff, there's no pressure to end that, at the top of the hour. So you have this kind of relaxation, I think, that comes with that, and you get to know people a lot better.
Well, it's also less transactional.
Yeah.
When we have a Zoom meeting, it's because there's a topic to discuss. Here's the people that are going to be there. Here's the agenda, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And we're here to do this thing. And then when we're done with that, it's over, and we
Yeah.
all go on to the next thing. But in real life, it's just not as transactional, and it's far more social.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's important. Hey, everybody. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe or follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever else you get your podcasts. On Twitter, we are at SoftwareandBlue, and our website is softwareandblue.com. We'd love to hear your ideas on companies that you'd like to see profiled, or if you have any recent tech news articles that you think might be interesting for people in tech sales, we'd love to hear about them.